Hey, Bomb, have you seen my... Oh my god, what the heck are you playing?
No, wait, it's not what you think.
What is this anime crap? Dude, that's my computer!
Alright, now you sit your butt down over there and just give it a try. This was an honest request that came in from Patreon anyway, so stop looking at me like that. You're telling me that the internet asked us to play an anime schoolgirl dating sim visual novel? In the long and short of it, yes! I guess there's no limit on the stuff we do anymore. I'm not sure what you're expecting to have happen here, but... Now, I've seen a lot of scary things in my life, but this might top it all. Did we mention this is a psychological horror game? The illustrations and UI look great. I still have some complaints with the visuals, but I'll stow it for the story segment. Do you still need the eyes? It's really unsettling. Yeah, well, this game's about to get unsettling. Fair warning, we're gonna go full-on spoilers here, so if you haven't already, check out our full livestream playthrough of the game, shameless plug. And, it's gonna get a little messed up. If dark themes like depression and suicide upset you, do yourself a favor and just skip this one. Now enough stalling, let's do this! The story begins like a traditional visual novel where you play as a young high school guy who gets roped into joining an after-school literature club with 4 girls. You've got the childhood friend Sayori, the secluded one Yuri, the small feisty one Natsuki, and the friendly popular one Monika. Between afternoons with the club, you'll be prompted to choose words for a poem to write and share with the club on the next day. Your choices do determine which girls like your poem the most and lead you down various routes to experience different scenes with each of them. This is honestly the game for the first 3.5 hours or so based on your reading pace. However, this and pretty much everything else up to this point is just a distraction for the player. Though sharing poetry with the club will let you start to pick up on some darker implications in each of their lives. This culminates in your discovery of Sayori having severe depression. She's deeply troubled with her internal conflicts, and you can't help but feel for her, as no matter what you do, she inevitably spirals deeper into self-loathing and anguish. In our playthrough, we discovered through some heavy implications that Yuri is cutting herself when nobody's around. At this point, the game plays it off like it's nothing, leaving the player to piece things together, worrying over the safety of these poor, suffering young women. The game then puts you in another of several tough emotional decisions, but this time with deeper ramifications as you strain your mind trying to figure out the best outcomes to keep both Sayori and Yuri happy. And up to this moment, I thought the turn the game took was absolutely brilliant storytelling. It first lulled the player in with a false sense of security for several hours before taking advantage of their newly established bonds for the characters with heart-wrenching implications, leaving you wanting nothing more than to find some way to somehow make everyone happy, knowing that in the end, there is no way you can. However, the game opted for a different approach. You soon find Sayori dead in her room, hanging from a noose. Instead of this being a depressing scene, the game plays it off like a cheap attempt at shock value and nothing more, with staticky backgrounds and glitchy visuals and distorted sound effects. For me, the intended effect backfired tremendously. What should have left me in tears with the immense buildup and untimely loss of your close friend, the game was honestly trying to make a cheap scare out of it. And that alone was sadder than anything else at that moment. The immense disrespect towards depression only worsened from this point on, as you replay the game from the beginning with Sayori missing from the story, which should have been a painful experience. Reliving those events with someone missing in your life quickly turned cringy and disappointing as the occurrence and intensity of the glitchy game horror tropes littered this act. It quickly becomes apparent to the player that Monika, the only of the 3 girls the game doesn't give the player the chance to spend any meaningful time with, is self-aware that she is in a video game and is now altering game script and even deleting characters in order to limit your choices and forcefully win your attention. From here on, the game practically parodies real-world problems like depression and cutting, and uses them like satirical hokey scare tactics. Swapping anime eyes out with real eyes isn't scary, it's corny. And so is pretty much everything else this game tries to scare you with from there on. Instead of feeling terrible for the characters at this point, the overindulgence of fourth wall breaking and shameless disrespect towards actual depression did nothing but have a counter effect on me. I felt nothing for them anymore, and if anything, I was just getting majorly disappointed. The scary thing about depression is that it hides in plain sight, and it doesn't need silly horror cliches to be frightening. Depression is scary because it can be something quietly hurting the people you love, and not in your face flashing with glitchy imagery and garbled visual static. Honestly, if the game used this to its advantage and utilized real-world depression subtleties to challenge player decision-making in order to somehow fight against the overwhelming odds and make everyone happy in the end, it would have been just as effective as a shock and tremendously more frightening than it was. Here's an example. Did you know that I've experienced nearly all of the awful things this game puts forward firsthand? Now, fortunately, the worst of it is behind me, but I still have the bloody notebooks and various knives to prove it. Would you have known that just by looking at me? Or even after hundreds, if not thousands of hours spent with me on this channel? That's why it's scary, because it's almost impossible to spot, and even harder to fix alone. Finding out that someone you care about has depression or suicidal thoughts is earth-shatteringly scary, but only if it's real. And glitchy visuals and hokey distorted music does nothing but break the immersion in a game from reality. If anything, this game got substantially less scary the harder it tried because of this separation. Coming from someone who knows this all too well, the attempts at making psychological disorders a cliche horror attempt at frightening me not only fell flat, but were downright insulting. On the upside, the ending was pretty fun and bizarre, with Monica completely taking over the game and forcing the player to do nothing but talk to her, literally forever, until they find and delete her own character file hidden in the game files that Monica herself tells you how to access, not so subtly. I do like fourth wall breaking games and clever stories, and this one is full with tons of extra hidden lore and secret content tucked away in those game files. Reading those and certain poem entries imply that the writer honestly knows what this kind of pain really feels like. My biggest problem with this game is accepting the fact that the same person who nailed the execution of setting the player up in different moments with handling depression in your close friends is the same person who diminished their problems down to nothing more than ineffective, corny jump scares. Are you looking at me differently now that you know all that about me? Then at the very least, I hope you have at least this one takeaway. Depression isn't ever obvious or in your face. Nobody ever talked to me about it or tried to help me because even though I thought I was being clear that I needed help, sometimes the right people are just missing in your life. So pay close attention to your friends and family and be the one who's there for them. Because for most people, by the time they find out, it might already be too late. Oh, well, you know I'm always here for you. Come on, come here, you. Oh yeah, there's music in this game, but we already kind of covered that, so kinda hard to sell it when we literally just told you the entire story to a visual novel. For at least a few hours, you can fall under the impression that several anime girls are actually interested in you, before they inevitably meet their untimely demise. It's free. If you saw this online as an 18+ visual novel and downloaded it because of that alone, I've got some bad news for you. The positive gamer in me was let down by the way that the story was handled, but still had a good enough time with Doki Doki Literature Club to give it a solid 6 out of 10. The game is creative in its use of fourth wall breaks and messing with the player psychologically, and honestly should be acclaimed for it. I see pitfalls as opportunities to improve in the future, and hopefully the game's developer, Dan Salvato, does so as well. The critical gamer in me is sickened with Doki Doki Literature Club, but for all the wrong reasons, giving it a lousy 3 out of 10. The ludicrous disrespect of depression it blatantly exaggerates to a comical degree, to me at least, is unforgivable. The game makes light of serious problems and plays them off like they're nothing more than cheap tricks in a horror movie. The fact that the game initially handled depression so well only makes these corny, cringy horror attempts all the more disappointing. Maybe it's best that most people can't relate to this level of depression to recognize that this misrepresentation is actually hurtful to those people who are battling real depression themselves. It only means that they don't have to share in the same pain that the people around them might be going through. If you're right in your assumption, then unfortunately the game might be right in its as well. If this is what ignorant people think depression looks like, then there truly is no happy ending. At the very least, we can be better than that. For those of you in the United States suffering from severe depression, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline or use the extra links provided in the description for help at any time. And everyone watching this also has access to our Discord page, where problems like this have come up before, and you'd be shocked by the amazing outpouring care and hope given to those of us in the community who are suffering. So don't feel unwelcome, and use the links below to chat with someone anytime. And for what it's worth, what did you guys think of Doki Doki Literature Club? Let us know your positive and critical ratings in the comments below. But if you think depression and suicide are okay to joke about, then you're so lucky I'm running a family-friendly show to tell you how I really feel. You're just playing with yourself! This episode of Playing With Myself was specifically requested by Atomic Thomas through Patreon. Did you even know you could do that? Join the discussion on Discord by using the new Patreon perks to nominate and vote for future episodes. Patreon members get first picks, so check out the links in the description for more information. And as always, thank you to our amazing Patreon members Atomic Thomas, Ben, Sid, Denny, Erica, Kai, Rowan, and Squad Fam. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like the videos and subscribe for more, and we will see you guys in the next video. Booyah!